Hello and welcome to another episode of the Built Different podcast. I'm your host, Pete Asadourian, and as usual, my co-host, Randell Bennett. Just the purpose of our Built Different podcast is to really bring you individuals with championship mindsets, people that really just want to take their performance to the next level, whether it's a coach, whether it's an athlete. We just have individuals on the show that just really kind of have that mindset of the winning mentality and what it takes to really grind and go forward and win champions. And tonight we have a great show, and we're going to introduce our guests in a few minutes. But first, I'd like to introduce my co-host, as usual, Randell Bennett.
What's going on, guys?
Randell's always flashing his jewels. What do you got on there, Randell? Your hand's like dipping.
2021 state champs, Cromwell, Portland. Big shout out to all the guys on the team, my staff, everybody, man. I miss you guys. Those are good old days. You don't realize, and hopefully this is a message for our guests today. You know, as you know, that group will never be together again, and you guys did some special things. So I just want to give a shout out to my guys, man, because we have a great guest on today, and I'm excited.
Yeah, we can just roll that right into like what the purposes of our show too, and just having those individuals on our show that really have that mindset. I know I keep saying that, and that's like a phrase, if you will, that we keep using, but it is a mindset. And we'll talk with our guest shortly about his mindset and how he gets his players focused, ready for a long season. Because obviously the basketball season, we talked about it last time, we went 4 months. So we went to the semifinals, and our guests certainly went longer. I'm going to hold off a little bit. I'm going to build it up a little bit for him.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, especially like, everyone up here is, won a championship respectfully and humbly, right? And I think once you go through it and you understand what it takes and all the distraction and all the, the small things that came up that could have derailed it, but somehow as a leader, and the leaders of your team found a way to get you guys kind of over that hump and that mountain. I mean, they're going to give out a championship every year.
Sure.
So you really understand what it took for you to get there. And I think watching the process of other people going through it and knowing someone in this group is going to hoist that trophy at the end, it kind of gets you excited every year, and you're almost ready to kind of wrap your arms around and celebrate with those people as they win the championship and they get to go on that magical run of, the press run and, banquets and ceremonies and things like that. I remember those days and people in town being so excited. So I think just me seeing other people get to go through it, that kind of warms my heart a little bit.
I think too, Rand, just a comment on that. As coaches, like, we go into the season expecting to win, and I think for me and, obviously our guests tonight, and I know you for sure, like, we kind of do it to win. We want to win championships, and that's the motivation behind it. But all right, without further ado, let's get our guest on. He's a dear friend of mine. He's a mentor of mine. I've known him a pretty good portion of my life. Coach John Reiser from Manchester Basketball. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice to have you on here. A super huge congratulations to you. I have to look at my cheat sheet here because you have so many accolades and have done so much stuff in your coaching career. But congratulations on winning the state champion 2 weeks ago at Mohegan Sun. You're definitely going to be talking about that today. We want to hear detail, your feelings, your mindset going through that. But Coach is a member of the Manchester Hall of Fame. He's coached boys basketball at Rocky Hill, at Rockville High School. That's actually where I met Coach. I was his assistant out there for a few years. And then from there, Coach Reiser went on to Rocky Hill. He coached the boys there, winning a COC championship, one or two, I think, a couple of them.
Shout out to the COC.
Yeah, COC, Charter Oak Conference. He's the third coach in the state's history to win a boys and a girls chip. So that's something. And he's won it. What is the stat on this, Coach, that you won it at the same school?
Yeah.
So
Two guys have done that. Two other guys have done it, so I am the third.
I'll continue with your resume here, Coach.
Okay.
Yeah. He has 2 state championships with the girls at Manchester, and then again, like I said, he just had his first with the boys since 1938. It's quite a while.
That's quite a while.
And I said he's a member of the Manchester Hall of Fame. He's approaching 600 wins. He's also coached. How about this? We have track and field state championship. He's coached softball, lacrosse, tennis, baseball. What am I missing, Coach?
There's a few other
Yeah, right.
swimming. I don't know. I did a few other things. I can't remember them all.
But
Cross-country.
that's enough of an intro, though, I think. So, but we're psyched. I'm personally psyched to have you on here, man. Like, you've been a big inspiration in my life. I think I actually learned from you, like, the mindsets and your obviously your coaching philosophy over the years, and you've shown me and obviously your other athletes what it takes to win. I just listed off a bunch of things. You're at the pinnacle. We've talked about this. It's almost, where do we go from here?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just going to enjoy here right now.
Right,
That's
right.
it, where we are.
Fair enough.
So talking about like your career and all these things that you've done, like highlight one thing. Obviously, we have this year. That's a huge major highlight for you. Just talk a little bit about all the kind of your run, maybe starting from Rockville and like how you started and what made you get into the coaching. I know you coached at the college level. I left that out. You coached at Central. So you've had a long career of coaching. It's been a big part of your life. So
Yeah.
kind of like
40 years.
yeah, talk a little bit about that and like your run from the Rockville days and moving up and from college.
Yeah. My Rockville days were special. I'm getting this honor, and I'm thinking back about how I started in coaching, and I get into a tough situation at Rockville. I came in, I was the 4th coach in 4 years, and the league was really good, CCC East, with well-known coaches and talent. And that was my first introduction back in the 80s. So my message to people, the ADs and the young coaches, is you have to have good support. I think, like, if I came to that situation, and here we're going against Public and East Hartford and Neil Curlin at Wyndham and all these big-time guys, and Manchester was really a powerhouse back then. If I didn't have good backing, I might only coach a couple of years, because coaching's tough, as you guys know. And there's so much that goes into it. There's so much outside stuff that happens. And you have to understand that coming in as a young coach, that you're not always going to win a championship. Not everything's going to be, like it is now. You're going to go through some hard times. And so I'm fortunate that the people that mentored me were very supportive. And so here I am all this time later, and you wonder if it had been different, if it wasn't a good experience, if I didn't have people who supported me, if I didn't have the football guy, Dunn and Wheelock and guys like that, along with Tom Allen, John Williams, our administrators, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. Being at Cromwell, that was my alma mater. So coming in as my first head coaching job, my athletic director, big shout out Kelly Maher. I've known Kelly Maher since I was 14. I had her in a study hall my freshman year. So for her to be my athletic director and kind of help usher me through those first kind of years when I come back the second year and I'm like, well, that didn't kill me, so I should be smooth sailing from here. And then, no, it's a whole new set of problems this year, a whole new set of issues this year. So to just, like you said, have those people that you can lean on and help you get through or take some of the things off your plate so you can focus on, the main thing, which is the game, right. is huge and really big for any young coach to hear.
It's funny. So I mean, I've had the same experience as a young coach coming in. I was 25 years old. It was my first, head coaching job, and it was the same thing. It's like, who's this young guy? So you got to have that support
right.
behind it. Without it, like you said, you get turned off. And
yeah.
There's definitely coaches out there, and there's definitely administrations out there that kind of are puppets, if you will. And
I don't. You can be good at athletics and academics, or I'll flip that. You can be good at academics and athletics, right? Those things exist for any administrators or anything watching. Like, we can be good at both of those things. And I think, especially for young people, if you give them a high standard and that's all they know, then they're just high achievers. And I think that was something that resonated with our team a lot. Like, these are our non-negotiables. We're going to achieve high. We have a B rule, nothing less than a B, right? And we're checking grades every week. And, we expect you to be good in the classroom and good on the field, right? And, I'm sure the guys at Rockville, they expect their guys to do the same thing because they're trying to beat Cromwell. And, we just have to understand that these are our circumstances, right? Like you said, that wasn't an easy league to be in. But I'm sure looking back now, what a better way to cut your teeth, right?
Right.
Because, well, you can speak to that, but I mean, what's your mindset, being a young coach and then going through that and then coming into the next year being like, okay, now I kind of know what I need to do to get us in a place where we can win that game, right? Like, what are some of the lessons that you were able to learn from those early days that, I mean, the game changes so much, so I won't say that you carry to this day, but like that helped you get through those early years to continue pushing forward as a coach?
Yeah, and the game has changed, but the work ethic hasn't. And that's what I had right away. And I came up through the camps, working camps and teaching at camps and that kind of thing, where you don't see that so much anymore. One, I ended up taking over Connecticut Basketball School. We didn't even talk about that.
I left that one out.
Director of Connecticut Basketball School for
Co-owner.
Yeah, co-owner for like 25 years. And that's a teaching camp, or was a teaching camp.
I need to bring that back.
Yeah, well, that comes up a lot because it was a special camp and it had a special place for a lot of people. And it was a huge name.
I did have that down there. We forgot. We can definitely talk about that. That's actually where I started. You brought me up there in 1993, the summer of it. Excuse me, and I met so many people. It's just such it was a fraternity almost of coaches that would just all had the same common interest, and you're learning from each other. And I think that's, for me as a young coach, and you learn off each other. And when I was going through my coaching, like, you steal from each coach. You're going to take a little bit there, you're going to take a little bit of there, then you put your own feel on it. And I think that's what coaching is, developing your own philosophy, but you're learning from different guys.
Right. So I came into Rockville with that mindset that we were just going to work hard. And back then, now Rockville wasn't known as a basketball school, but they had good football. They had good football with Dunn, and they had good baseball. So they had some tough kids there. And that was my philosophy. If I get the 5 toughest kids in the school, we're going to be okay, because we were going to compete. And that's what I did. I got the toughest kids. And then my 3rd year there, we won the conference, which was cool. And I don't think they've won any a conference championship since. That was back in 91 maybe? 89, 91, 92.
Had some players on that team, Geisler.
Yeah, yes, and we had some. Yes, we did, and we had a lot of the football guys, and they won the state championship in football during my time there. So that was big, and I learned that, and I think that's what I carry through today. That if you came into my practice, you'd see how hard we practice, and even on a day where we might have a game where we're going to not go as long, but it's still going to be pretty intense, and if I cut things short, my players are so used to it. They're like, well, that's it. So that kind of atmosphere that we've created and continue to create is been constant from the 80s right through.
Even through, like, when we were at Rocky Hill, we always, again, you had tough guys. I mean, and then for me, that's who I look to coach. I want tough athletes. I think any coach wants tough athletes that, have that mindset of being tough and going out there and grinding and working, and and that's what wins. Especially, correct me if I'm wrong, but like high school sports, right? There's obviously really good athletes, but if you're tough and you have the mindset that you're going to outwork, You're going to go in there every single day and outwork your teammate, the other opponent. I mean, that's going to carry you through, and you're going to have a great high school career. You know,
In a basketball season, how many you play, like 20 games?
20 regular season. Yeah.
How many of those 20 games would you attribute to, like, we were just tougher than them, we didn't play our best game, but we were just tougher than them, in better shape. You know, we kind of squeaked that one out. How many games would you say you have? You know, these guys got a lot of distractions. They got a lot of stuff going on. So some nights they just, you know, it's a Tuesday
I don't know if that's a good
in
question
January.
for them to ask this year. I mean, they were tough and really good.
Yeah, but we did have a couple of games where I was not happy. You know, we would win easily, but it wasn't the same because there was some let up in the intensity, and the guys knew that, and they'd hear about it, and they know that. You know, I didn't want that to creep in. I never wanted to creep in. But there were a couple of games this year where we were a little flat at times. We were on the road early. We had played Friday night at home against Cheney, and we had to travel down to East Lyme on a Saturday. One, early buses aren't good for my guys. It's just not. Anytime we got to get on the bus early, that's not a good thing. And we get down there, and you know, we're playing okay. We're up like 8. All of a sudden, we're down 4 at the half, I think. And I wasn't happy. But we went out that third quarter, and the message got across, and we outscored them like 34-10 or something like
Wow.
that. We scored at least 34 points. Might have even been more. Might have been 37 in that one quarter. So there are some flat spots, and you know, I think it's as an athlete, and like you said, we were so talented. That, you know, that mental toughness that you have to have all the time, and you can't let that creep in there. So, to answer your question, there were a couple times that this year, but we lost 2 games. We didn't lose either of those games because we didn't play tough or we didn't play hard. In both of those games, came down to the last minute. Actually, both. Once, you know, we're missing a guy, and then the other one we just didn't execute, and we could have won. So against 2 really good teams, you know, 2 Windsor and East Catholic. So it's not like you know, those weren't quality opponents. They were very good opponents.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially in I know, like football, you only get 10 games, so it's like I used to tell my guys all the time, you never know who's gonna show up and say, "Not today, Cromwell."
Oh, no question.
And we're gonna fight you. And if we're not ready, you know, that quickly turns into 2 scores, and now it's the third quarter, and now we have to do things.
Sense of urgency now,
you don't
too.
want to be in that my back's against the wall. I have to get this to work.
Right.
We want it to just be flowing at our pace, kind of, and not put that pressure on ourselves. So I know that's something that was always in the back of my mind.
Sure.
Especially, you said early bus. If we had to play Old Saybrook on a Saturday at 1, I don't know what team I'm getting. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, to that point, and the more we got recognized, and the more teams want to beat you.
Yeah.
And you know, I would talk about that, like a
big target on your back.
Yeah, and a team beats you. That's what they're going to talk about at their banquet. You know, we knocked off Manchester because we were getting all this, you know, publicity, and you got to guard against that. But you were talking about the championships, and you know how hard it is to win a championship because all those other coaches want to win too.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of really good coaches out there that are working really hard. And so you know, my job gets tougher and tougher. I'm always amazed. I'm scouting and I'm watching a team and I'm like, this guy's a good
Constant
coach.
watching
This
film.
guy, yeah. And I'm like, this guy's a good coach. He does a good job. You know, I'm like, man, how are we gonna play? And I'm always worried. You know, no matter who we're playing, I'm always worried. I can't sleep because I'm like, wow, you know, these guys could get us. So you know, you get that. I think that's what drives us as coaches is that, you know, that realize it's not easy.
No, it's not.
And as a player, you got to get better because you're a junior and everybody else wants to be a good player too. So they're all working, you know, over the summer. And now you're going to come back and if you're the same player, you know, these guys are going to go by you.
Right past you.
Tie goes to the younger player for me. You know, I mean, if you had 3 years here, and if he's a freshman or a sophomore and it's even,
Yeah.
I got 3 more years with him, so I have to give him that opportunity.
What do you think like this one means? Like that, you have two before with the girls; those are special. Obviously, winning any kind of championship special.
Yeah.
But this one, I know we've talked, but like
Yeah.
this one kind of, what does this one mean compared to the other ones?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my first one with the girls, they had never won, and I had never won a state championship. And so, and it was an overtime win and against a team that had won like 3 or 4 in a row, NFA.
NFA.
Um,
I was
so
gonna
that-
say foreign. I knew
yeah.
they were down there. NFA.
And that was really special. And then 2 years later, we went undefeated, went 28-0, and so that was really special. So, and then 2 years later, we're in the final, and unfortunately, we lost our leading scorer, but lost a close game. But to get one with the boys was, it became such a big goal of mine, and I know you were fortunate to get yours, and I knew Manchester. There was a lot of talent there for a long time, but they just didn't have much success in the tournament. They weren't able to get to the semis. They hadn't been to the semis since the 50s. So I knew it would mean a lot to the school, to the town, and of course to my guys to know, it's one thing to come in and say, listen guys, we work real hard, we can be good, and they bought in. Last year we were number 1 seed, and we got knocked off in the quarters. But until you win it, until they know that, wow, we can actually be state champs, it carries a lot more weight. So
I'm gonna interrupt you. When did you? That's a great point. When did your guys you think bought in? I know they probably bought in early, but like when did you see it? Like these guys really, they're dialed in right now, and we can really do something special here.
So the year before, number 1 seed, we're 18-2 regular season, and we get an upset at home, and we didn't play great, but we lost to a good team. But we lost to Stanford.
It's gonna be a winner and a loser, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't a typical performance, but the guys were so upset, and actually stormed off, and were very upset. So I had some seniors on that team that were good players, but the returning guys. So to answer your question, when I saw them, and we worked over the summer in the CIAC, things have changed a little bit, so I could spend some time with them. So I was with them. I coached them in summer league, and I'm with them all the time. I run the weight room in the fall, so I'm always around the guys. But when we got back into the gym, and those guys, every single guy had gotten better, like not like significant, and they were pretty good. I mean, they were good players as juniors. But when I saw that when we took the floor as a team to start the season and how much everybody had improved, that's when I knew. I said, wow, we're going to be pretty good. I knew that.
Yeah, so you knew early. Yeah, that's how I felt when we won it.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said it to the newspaper, but yeah.
Right.
So you talk about like, I know you and I have talked about like the actual like the roller coaster of what coaching is. So, I mean, we've shared our feelings every day, like each other, all 3 of us say, but like, it's a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
Of just emotion, and I think we preach that like we want to give that mental message to our athletes of staying mentally tough. But how do you stay mentally tough? You know what I'm saying? That's their crutch. Like so, long season, you went to the end.
Yeah, and I was back in the gym this weekend with the guys, letting them play. They just wanted to get back in there. So it is emotionally draining, and it takes so much out of you. And people don't realize what a coach goes through. Just
Even on
everything,
your
the
wins.
highs and the wins, and then and then things happen with your guys, and you were talking about the grades and all that. There's so much in a big school like ours that I've always on the guys about doing the right thing, social media, all this. You don't want to doing something stupid. There's all that kind of stuff that you go through. But how do I recharge? I walk back in the gym. When I walk in that gym, man, it just I like when it's dark and I walk in there and the lights come on and I look at the banners and the hoops, and it takes me, even like I think, wow, am I gonna be ready for the first practice? As soon as I walk in, it just comes over me, and bang, I'm right back in the moment. I'm right back in that coaching mode, and my mindset's, great. And so as much as I go through all that kind of emotional stuff and the downs and the, oh man, when I walk in that gym, I'm ready.
So it's it. You make a good point, because even for an athlete, you got a bad game last night, you got to forget about it.
Yeah.
And Ron Hainsey, you both know him, played pro hockey, and that was one of the things that he would tell Tyson. My son, he'd be like, "You got to leave yesterday behind." And I can remember him telling that, like, we just got pumped 4-1, but I got to get on the bus, catch a plane, and go play tomorrow night.
Right.
So what am I going to do? Keep thinking about this one? So it's kind of the same thing where.
Yeah, it is, because I beat myself up especially after a loss. I always take the responsibility, and I tell my guys that. And I say, no one takes the loss harder than I do. And as a coach, I just feel like if we lose, it's on me. I didn't prepare you well enough.
Preparation.
I didn't do a good enough job. And I never blame my guys. Basketball, and you're not going to be perfect. You're going to miss shots. You're going to turn the ball over. And the way we play so fast, I know that there's going to be moments we overthrow somebody. And that's okay. So guys are going to make mistakes. They're going to miss a foul shot. They're going to do. But I shouldn't be making any mistakes. I should be on top of everything. And so if we lose, I made a mistake. It was my fault.
I think we can all attest to that.
I didn't make any mistakes, guys.
We didn't lose much either.
Rand was perfect.
No, I'll telling my guys from when we did lose. It was on you, man. Nah, I'm just busting on them.
No, but it's certainly draining. It's definitely hard. You work out every day, and so those things probably help your mind, clear your head. And but I think it's important that as a coach, like, you got to take care of yourself too.
Yes.
Because it's almost like you're being a parent. Like, if you're fathering your children and you're not taking care of yourself, what kind of example are you? So it's that pressure of always trying to do the right thing in front of your team, say the right things in front of your team, motivate them the right way, and it's challenging because sometimes it doesn't work, and you go home with it.
Right.
And like you said, you don't sleep. But you got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Talk about the makeup of your team and your staff, and how things are kind of delegated amongst your staff, and is there input from the players on what you guys think will work to get you guys a win, especially when you're going to see teams twice and things of that nature. I asked because I know as we started to progress and I started to understand, like, you talked about those guys returning, and they kind of know it now a little bit. They know our scheme. We kind of know what works. We know who fits where, if they're really invested. And as we started to progress in that way, I would lean on, my captains, my quarterback, my starters on defense that kind of understood, and what do you see? What do you want to run? My quarterback's dad, comes up to me after a game and he's, "That's a great call." And I'm like, "Yeah, your son called it. That wasn't me." That wasn't me.
Sometimes I know you as coach, but like sometimes you got to rely on your players. They're playing.
We just talked about, the stress and how much that toll can be on you being a long season. I just wanted to give you a little bit of time to shine a light on some of the guys, that, aren't going to be on the cover of Game Time CT, but, really had a huge impact and helped you guys kind of get over this hump. And, the whole town of Manchester is singing you guys praises for, almost a Red Sox lengthy curse, so.
The big, right?
Yeah. First on the players, so these guys were really smart. I mean, their basketball smarts was off the chart, and I have a great staff. You mentioned the coaches, and Rico, my JV guy, he's amazed that I don't need the board. He always, "Coach, you need the board," and I said, just sometimes we'll bring us into, and because I can tell my guy in the timeout exactly what I want, and they go out there. And they execute it. The high IQ. And do I include them in what we run? Absolutely. So we'll talk about things. That doesn't, because I laugh because, and I might give away some secrets here, but, you know, I do include them a lot, like, hey, what do you think about this defense? Or maybe we'll switch them. You know, I'm thinking, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
Right.
And it, you know, it doesn't mean I'm going
But
to
you're a
listen
player.
to it.
You're a player's coach.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yes.
But it's, so I smile because you know, I'll say, you know, hey, you know, well, let's go to the odds one here. Take that middle away. Let's flatten it out on the top. And Coach, I think that's our best defense. I think that's best. All right, let's do it. And I'll say, you know, timeout. You know, I think let's go man here. We're gonna trap this guy. We're gonna go after him. And you know, I'll ask them, and they'll say, nah, I think we stay. You know, I think we should go zone. I said, okay, we're gonna do what I want to do. You know, that's all, you know, just don't. So, but I do include them because they're smart and offensively, I'll ask them. Like we run a lot of stuff this year that we haven't run too much of in the past because of their IQ, and a lot of the Zoom stuff that UConn was running and things like that. But we run a lot of backdoor plays. And at East Hartford, we had a big moment. I was down a couple guys over there, and I come in. I said, "Who's being the most tightly guarded? Who? You know?" And then one of the guys actually he went to East Hartford years before that, and he said, "They're all over me. They're in my face." I said, "You're the guy we're running for." And boom, we got a layup, and it was a big moment. And
It was a close game.
Yeah, it was a close game. So I always ask, get their input, and I do trust them, and I know they trust me. You know, as well. So, but like I said, I smile because even though I get their input, it doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
Right. Yeah. You're hoping that their input is what you already wanted to do, almost, right?
If they say something else, then, you know, all right. Well.
Yeah, I've definitely found that players are going to try harder to execute what they called, right? So you kind of throw them a bone here and there and let them run, and then you'll see like, oh, we might have some action here
It's almost like
because
you're showing them a sense of ownership.
yes,
too,
yes.
So
You know, they have that pride and they want what they call to work because, you know, so if it comes down to it, yeah, go ahead, run it. You know, my son, he loved Miss Rachel when he was a pup, and she would do sign language. So, you know, this was play. So the coach in me is like, I could go to practice that night. I tell my quarterback, hey, this is the signal for call your own play. So, you know, the game we'd be on a drive, and he'd look at me, and he'd do this, and I know he saw something, so go ahead, run it. Save me, and then, boop, we hit something. And just like that, it was like, and it wouldn't happen every drive, but when he saw something, he knew he could look at me and flash that signal, and go ahead. I'll start looking at the next thing.
The year before, I had some smart guys too that were seniors, and one Javion Robinson. He would come in because I would tell my guys, I said, listen, when you watch a game, get something out of it. You know, if you're home watching, and he would come in and he'd come in with something. I saw you kind of run this, you know, I run, and the other guys would too. You know, and I'd come in because and I'd say, hey, Cooper, Duke ran this thing for flag, and I ran it for our guy Will. So they get into that, and they get into my set, and so they start coming and go, Coach, I saw this. You know, I saw this. I said, let's see it. Let's see what you got. And, so I do give that ownership, and they're great at it. You know, coming up with something.
That's it for the young coaches out there, man. That was free. That was
right.
That was a freebie. We gave that one away, but
well, I think too, you're creating a good environment for them where it's like, again, we talk about the ownership. You're giving them a piece of that. Yeah. They're understanding it. They're having fun with it, and you know, it's confidence for them too. It's like
they want to come to work.
Yeah, it's like, wow, Coach really believes in me. He's taking our suggestions. Yeah. So I think that goes a long way for sure.
Elite culture, great environment. You know, you watch any professional team, you're probably gonna see Pat Mahomes in there sitting with Andy Reid talking about what he likes. Right. You know, Tom Brady, we see Tom Brady and Belichick sitting together in the summer, breaking down what Ed Reed is doing in Baltimore. You know, like things like that. Like, you know, the coach has to have the relationship with the players. That trust has to be there. Like, it can't just be one way. It can't just be what the coach is saying, because, you know, you need them to buy in and to execute it on the field. You know, when the ball is tipped or it's kicked off, you know, we're just calling plays and they have to execute it. So you got to give them that little bit of ownership.
So one thing, Coach, that I've noticed through your career, because I followed you, is that from the Rockville days till present, you've calmed down quite a bit. So I think
yeah.
I think
That's right.
my style is adaptive to yours, if you will. And I actually said something to you this year because I was at a game and I'm like, man, you sat the whole game. Then you actually said something to me like, sometimes like the craziness can drown out what you're trying, your message. Like sometimes you're going fast, your intensity, and it'll make you speed your team up, and where they're not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
Talk about that, like why,
Yeah, and there's a lot of factors in that why I calmed down. But specifically to
Your
this
doctor
year,
say calm down?
no, you know what really took a lot out of me, to tell you the truth. My last dominant girls team, I had a really good team. I think we were number one in the state going into the state tournament, and we won the CCC that year. And I had a really good team. Ashley Perez was over a 2,000 point scorer for me. UConn's looking at her, and I mean she's that good. She ends up going to St. John's. Two players then were very ill. Two players that I could have lost, and one with a brain tumor and one with an infection that was awful. So that took a lot out of me. And one of the players was sitting with me on the way back, and she cried the whole way back. And it changed me a little bit, going through all that. It put things a little bit more in perspective, I guess, for me, and like what's really important. And like we were probably the best team in Connecticut that year, but we got beat in the semis. And the teams, 4 of the teams that won states, we had beaten, and the team that ended up number 1 in the state, we beat by 20. I mean, we were really good. But these players both rebounded, and one girl had the brain tumor taken out, and both graduated from college, and so that hit me, and so that changed me some. And then this year, one thing that stands out about my team, we never got rattled. I mean, we were down 25 points at Windsor and came back and won.
Wow.
We were down 20 points in the third quarter at home against Windsor and won. We were down against East Catholic both at home, came back and came down. We had the ball with a minute to go, up 1. Lost that game, but we beat them there. If you watched us, nothing rattled us. We were down 10 in the first quarter in Mohegan. And no, I'll talk about my timeouts later, but I didn't call one. And so I think, they know that I believe in what we do, and I believe in my guys. And we'd come back, the reporters were all at the game at Windsor, and what did you say to them at halftime? What did you say to them at halftime? Because, you come out, you're a different team, and you're down, there's like no hope. And we win that game in the 90s. And the message was, believe in what we do. I believe in what we do. I believe in you guys. And they came back, out. And so, yeah, so that contributes to my demeanor on the bench, knowing that I believe in these guys and that I don't get rattled either, and they didn't get rattled. That we're going to be okay.
I was going to ask you, like, what do you attribute that to?
Yeah.
So you just answered the question for me. Where if you're calm, then your players are going to be calm.
Yeah,
And
because they see me, and there was a big moment in Mohegan. Will, one of my best players, really good player, Will Odentan, fouls out with about 4 minutes to go, and he's an all-state kid. Along with she's 2 first-team all-state kids, and you watch him walk off the floor, and you talk about growth. The year before, we get upset in the quarters. Will storms off the court. He's like, gets a tee. He smashes the light on the way out, and that's how our season ended. And he was so upset after. And then you fast forward to this year. 4 minutes to go. He fouls out. He comes to the bench. He's got a smile on his face. He's clapping. He's cheering, for everyone else. But the guy that's going to replace him, he's all over him, just being supportive. He's on. He doesn't come in. His body language, he didn't drop his shoulders. He just fouled out of the state championship game, you know? And he never, it was a tough call. And he didn't say anything to the official. He didn't mope. He comes out with this great attitude. And then the kid that replaces him hits the big shot that sealed the game for us.
Right.
Reporters asked him afterwards, you know, how about that kid comes in, you know, and for you and hits the big shot. Will said, I knew he would do that. I knew he would. And the reporter said, no, come on, really? He goes, no, really. He said, that's what we do. And so you look at the attitude of, you know, right there, that's a perfect example of, you know, we don't get rattled. You know, we were in so many tough situations this year and played our way through it. And I told Will, and, you know, he'll hear more about that at our banquet, but the growth that he made, and all the guys did.
So, I mean, you talk about the adversity, right? So that's, I think we talk about this all the time. Like with adversity, you need adversity to be successful. So I think it's the good teams that work through the adversity. And I also think a big thing is you got to love each other.
Yeah.
You got to like each other. Like you have 14 athletes competing, 12, whatever it is. You guys, everybody in that gym has got to love each other.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you got to be pulling. You got, you know, just like that. That's a perfect example of Will. You know, just coming out of the game, go in, make a shot. Or say, I want to ring.
Right.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we all have, it's the same common purpose. And I think a lot of times athletes in certain programs, they get distracted by that, where it's selfish, it's me, it's but you didn't have that at all.
I can say this, and Coach Ferrazzi, John Ferrazzi at Sheehan, said this to me probably 2 years ago. He said, because they beat Bloomfield in the state championship in 2019 before COVID, and then we beat Bloomfield the year after. And then there was this big, like, you know, we kind of had this, you know, resurgence where we were kind of in the mix every year, and Sheehan was trying to get their footing back to being there. You know, like you spoke to, you know, kind of early playoff losses. You know, they're a good team, but they just trying to get their feet on. And he said, winning a state championship changes the fabric of your program, right? So it was kind of leading me into my next question, because you spoke about, you know, Will being an all-state guy, and I think you said you had 2 all-state guys. Kind of speak to their development coming from young guys to being the leaders that got the team over the hump. And how do you develop the next guys to kind of be cut from that same cloth? You know, because with winning now comes a whole new, the guys that didn't really have the impact this year are still going to be walking around with the fact that they won the state championship.
They got to be humble.
And now they're going to have to fill big shoes. So at some point, they're going to have to cut off what this season was and then start to prepare, because there's some teams that lost in the first round, especially to you guys, that are kind of already working again. And that target we talked about earlier is there. So how did you develop those guys and get them to here where we're at now? And then how do you develop the next crop to kind of keep this ship going in this direction?
Well, that's a great question. Not so much as Will and all those guys, how they developed. We were talking on Sunday, it's nice because now I've been there long enough where a lot of the guys that played for me in the past are around.
Yeah.
You know, they like to come to the practices and open gyms and the games. And one of my guys was there. We were talking about Will specifically because there's a guy that I have, a sophomore right now, Aaron, who's his body type, they almost look identical. I always tease him I said, oh, your little brother's here. And he said, yeah, but he's not Will. I said, yeah, but Will is a sophomore. I said, you got to remember. And then he said, you're right. He said, because he was a senior when Will was a sophomore. And he told Will that, Will, to get time, you got to be a great defender. Because he was long and athletic, but he wasn't a great offensive player yet. And then last year, he could get to the rim, but he didn't shoot the ball well. So this year he was just so hard to guard because we work on a lot of those things, and he's really good at lifting. But a lot of my guys they lifting their defender and getting to the basket. But I had shooters. These guys really developed. Sheets came in. He was always a great shooter. Chance and these guys, Cam. I mean, we from all 5 positions we could shoot. So they developed that. Not all those guys had that shot. Not all those guys were able to get to the basket. I think about freshman, sophomore year and the leaps they made, like I said, and then as juniors they were really good, but they got that much better at going into their senior year. That's going to rub off on the younger guys. We're going to take a hit. I mean, I didn't play the younger guys a lot, especially in the tournament. I mean, close games. I rode the seniors because those were one of my best players. Those are the guys I really trusted. And I knew that could affect us, but I really wanted to get the championship this year. So, but those guys know. Here's one thing that I find really interesting. When we do our drills, and right from the beginning of practice, we come in and it's game speed, right? It's everything is like, we're
practice like you play,
right? And that's another good thing. Like if you watch our practice, and you'll know how we play. And that I learned that from Calhoun a long time ago at a clinic. He said, if I came to your practice, well, I'd be able to tell you how, tell how you got, what your style is and how you play. Our guys, everything's got to be game speed, and the younger guys don't get that. You come up from middle school, and it's freshman level is so different, than middle school. Now that you come up to the JV level, and that's different. But then you get to the varsity level, and the varsity intensity and the level, and trying to get open. And being able to feed cut and all the things you got to do, and as a receiver trying to get separation and all those, it's a whole different level. So we have to come in and practice that way every day. So what I find really interesting is when I get a new player, somebody transfers in, or I had a freshman who was on the varsity roster, and I haven't had many of those. EJ, baseball player, coming in, and you see the older guys and how they go through our practice. You get a kid like the kid that we had gotten from another school this year, a couple of them, and watching how they practice, and it's a different level. Like they're not there yet. The little things that we do, and the game speed and the intensity, the defensive, drills, everything. It's just a different level. So that it's eye-opening to me because I realize my guys get it.
Yeah.
They get it. So. Yeah, are we going to take a hit? Yeah, but also I know my young guys get it. So we'll see. We'll see how they come back next year. I expect those guys to make the leaps that these other guys made, and that they'll come in, different guys think, different level.
I mean, there's certainly expectations.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Now it's like you said, that you're right here. You got to taste.
Yeah.
So that taste has got to still resonate in your mouth. I mean, the loss for us resonates. I mean, a loss, a win, you're going to have that feeling. So
Right.
the feeling of victory, you know what it smells like, you know what it tastes like. I mean, I would tell my team that, like, I've been there. I know what it tastes like. I know what, it feels like to hold a trophy and clip the net and do all those special things. You'll never forget that.
Right.
And even from the first 2 you had with the girls, you'll never forget those feelings.
And you don't forget those losses.
Right, you
That's
don't forget the loss.
You want them to sting. As a coach and as a player, my guys are upset, and they're upset their last game of the year, and you want them to be.
Yeah.
You want them to feel that sting and come back hungry and do something about it. I mean, our schedule is going to be ridiculous next year. It was really hard this year. It's going to be more harder.
I think
next
the
year.
conference, like even for the women, like it's CCC's tough conference.
It's
It's
real
just
tough
deep.
conference.
Yeah.
So deep.
So many
Fair-
schools,
Every,
yeah.
every team we play next year is gonna be-
32 schools.
It's going to be challenging.
How many schools?
Every game.
32.
Yeah,
There's
32.
something like that. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's good. I mean that's huge for their development as well.
Yeah, it's just preparation to a greater goal.
I mean, just going through that gauntlet. We used to see it as the 1 seed because our crossover games in our league were 1-2 from the other side. So it's like, I mean, not only do I have to play everybody on my side, I'm drawing Rockville, Granby, and Cromwell's one of the smallest schools in the league. Rockville's got 80 kids on their team, and I know somewhere in the middle of the year, I'm probably gonna have to go up there and fight for my life this week,
Yeah.
you know, and things like that it speaks volumes because I mean in 23, excuse me, when we made it back, we had 2 losses in the regular season to a Rockville and a Granby, but it ultimately set us up to go down to Ansonia and win, and then we played Bloomfield again in the state championship. So it was like those cuts during the year, those little you got knocked on your butt, you got to get back up because we still got 5 more games left.
Yeah.
And,
That's strength of schedule and in the environment. For us, we sold out a bunch of games this year. And so on the road and at home. So you're playing in that environment. Now you go to Mohegan and you got this huge crowd, and it was sold out.
I'm going to interrupt you because we're running short with time, but I want to hear from you, your experience at Mohegan. You just touched on that, but when, just going into the arena and that whole experience for yourself, and you're talking about the crowd. I was there. I mean, the Manchester crowd was huge. I would say half the town was there.
Yeah.
And then your superintendent even gave a late arrival.
Yeah, they had a 3-hour delay the next day.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah, that was great. So
The Eagles couldn't get Philadelphia out of school, but Manchester.
It's about.
a little more pull than that. You walk into that arena, and my other experiences in the championship games were at Central. So it was my first time coaching in Mohegan. I had gone to games there. But again, staying in the moment, not letting anything get too big for us, not chasing history. We didn't dwell on 1938. But in New London's right there. So we're playing New London. It's like a home game for them. And they play games there. They play their tournament games, their conference tournament. So I think it was the 3rd time they had played there this season.
Wow.
For us, we've never been there.
Right.
So but when it hit me, they introduced New London, and I hear the crowd go up and go, boy, they're going to have half the town. And then they introduced our team, the number 1, and the place went crazy. And I was like, wow, that's when it hit me that we had that great turnout. And it did make me nervous, and I don't think it made the players nervous. I think they just embraced it. And that's what we talked about, too, by the way, is embrace this moment. Don't let it get too big. I didn't ever want to be overwhelmed by it. I'll tell you what I said. We're in the locker room. There's a delay because there's the game before us, the girls' game. They have to do all their stuff that we had to do. You got to talk to the press, and you got to get your awards and your medals and all that. So we're waiting in the locker room longer than we had anticipated. And that could be a tense moment where now you're getting tight in basketball. Such fine skill, you're tight. You can't perform. And I was pacing around going, man, I wish I had my sneakers. You guys are so lucky that you get to play here. I never got to play in a place like this. I said, man,
just embrace it.
And so they were all laughing at me. The coaches are laughing, and it's all I kept saying. How lucky you guys are to get to play here.
Right.
And that was the mindset when we took the floor. We did embrace it, and they did feel so fortunate to be in that situation.
So we can go back to earlier comments and talking about your demeanor. So if you're pacing back and forth, you're nervous. Oh, what's going on? Why are we late? Why are we late? So I mean, that's a tribute to you. That's commends you as an elite coach, if you will, that you know how to handle yourself because you're an example to your team. They're going to feed off of your energy.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge.
Yeah, and you have to know your team too. And like I said, I knew my team didn't get rattled. And am I always that way? Did I blast them this year? I did blast them a couple times in practice.
You have to.
Yeah, and I mean, I really got into it one time, and it wasn't about basketball. It was about their behavior, something I heard during school. And I didn't realize that freshman that I was talking about, he had been invited up to our practice by the JV coach, and I didn't know if that was going to be the day. And I really went off, like I can at times. And I look around and here's this poor freshman, it's his first practice, and he's like, what is going on? So there are times that you do that, but you gotta know your team, and my team didn't need that. It's just like being down 20-something points at Windsor at halftime. What did you say to them? Did I block? No, I didn't. That's not what was, I didn't feel that was the appropriate.
A blast
you know,
isn't
to blast
always
these
the-
guys. You don't think they feel crappy already? They're down 20-something
Right.
points at Windsor.
right.
You know, they didn't need that from me. They needed to hear, what can we do? You know, what do we do? How do we get out of this hole? How do we
Pump
chip
them up.
away at it? And,
Let them know they're not that team. Like,
Right.
we're a better team than this.
right. So here we are in the locker room at Mohegan, and it's, you know, let's embrace the moment. Let me be, you know, give them some things to laugh about, and you know, I really meant it. I mean, I never got to play in an arena like that, and I wish I had gotten a chance to play there. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
But Coach Rand, you have anything else for Coach? Or?
I got my quick hitters.
Okay.
Yeah, right, go.
Again, in the comments, if you're watching this pod and you made it to this moment, leave a little comment on what we should name this segment. But I got some quick hitters for Coach. First one, this is going to get us off. Battle-tested bond. Who is your ride or die person?
Oof, man, that's a tough one because I had so many. I didn't have one guy. I mean, and my guys will tell you that. There were. That's why we were so good too. It didn't matter. We were so unselfish. They all trusted each other, and they all knew that any guy at any moment can look at the guy off the bench at the big three. So I didn't have one. I had 6 actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
You want to give them some free pub? Drop some names? A couple names that come to mind?
I mean, everybody talked about Sheets. He was all-state as a junior, and he scored, you know, almost 1,300 points in his career, and he had 200-something threes. I mean, the coach from New London called us the Golden State Warriors of Connecticut. You know, I heard that during the broadcast, and I mean, we could. So you had Sheets, you had Will that could get to the. I mean. These guys, and I see him every day in practice, Sheets would go off, and the guys would be in awe. I mean, they couldn't guard him. He was unguardable. He'd be hitting shots from the logo consistently. He'd hit 5, 6 in a row, and then you get up, and he's going by you, and he can finish with left, right, chance, going by you, finishing with the left and right. He had 24 in the championship game. He led the state in assists. So then he is, like I said, then you got Will who can go by you and hit the 3. And then you got Joe, the football kid, who just does everything. He guards the best player. He gets the big rebounds. You know, he led us in rebounding. He just does so many things. Then you got Big AC that doesn't care if he scores in a game. He'll set screens. He's gonna dive on the floor. He's gonna give you all that. And then you got Cam coming off the bench, who can get us 15 to 20 any time. And in practice, he gets going and he's hitting everything. So, and he can finish, and he's long. We're long defenders. So all those guys, I mean, and like I said, Cam off the bench hit the big 3.
That's why you're a state champ.
That's why we're
Right. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Period.
All right, here we go. Favorite pregame meal?
For me or the team?
I mean, listen,
Well,
the team would get sandwiches. I used to
yeah.
get a nice little salad
My
from
guy-
Salad
well,
Bar.
Mostly it was after because half the time my guys don't even eat. Like practice and like we're scrounging for bars and different things because like you guys got to eat. They're not good with that. After, you know, we'd go out and scrimmages and stuff, and we were at Cromwell issue. We'd stop at McDonald's or at East Lyme. We'd come back. We'd go, you know, whatever they wanted. So that wasn't. I know football's more into that. I wish my guys did.
I think he was saying your pregame.
Oh,
meal.
me?
For you?
Oh, well, I'm a preacher. I'm so superstitious. Everything I do, like where I park, what I listen to for music, the way I get to the high school, you know, all those things. I'm so superstitious.
Created
But
a
I don't-
monster out
yeah.
of it. See?
Yeah. We're in the third round, so we're playing our last possible home game at home in the tournament. I pull into the school, and as soon as I come in, there's this sign that says which way to go. It's been knocked down, and it's on the floor, because I think it was really windy. So I'm like, shoot, should I stop and get that? I go, and I'm ready to park, and I'm looking for my spot. I go, this isn't good. I drive back all the way around the parking lot, and I go get out of my car, and I I put this, I have to lift the sign up, I have to make sure it's in the right spot, and then I can drive back and park it, because it's just so, yeah, so it's not so much the food, but afterwards we go out as a staff, and we always get the same thing.
Nice.
And we won't break it, we won't, because, unless we lost, we're gonna eat the same, get the same pizza, get the same wings.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Best sports environment / stadium you've been in?
As a coach, or?
This is just period. This is you. You got 40 years of experience as a coach.
Because I've been to a lot of men's Final Fours.
I'm sure you've seen some things.
And I've been to the championship. But the first one at Central was really special because we had never been there, and all the town came out for that one too, and that was new for me. You were there, and we packed that place. But Mohegan, going into Mohegan Arena, like I said, and hearing that crowd roar, and it just overwhelmed me because I was like, wow, this is special.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go with that one. It was the
Nice.
most recent. Yeah.
Nice. This could be the same answer, but the best game you've been a part of. No pressure.
Wow.
What is that, 90?
There's so many.
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow. I mean, our first championship when Missy hit that 3 to send us to overtime, and then Kalia keeps stealing the ball and hitting the foul shots. And then we're undefeated.
He's been in almost 600 games.
Yeah.
Your record is.
Well,
I mean,
Wins
listen,
wise,
those
600.
ones, that game always is there for you.
So
Like,
I figured this out today because you were asking about wins and stuff. So how many games I've coached. And if I coached every day for the next 2.5 years, every single day, that's how many games I've coached.
wow.
So that's a lot of games. So to pick one, I mean, of course, Mohegan just happened. And that was so special to win that and not get rattled and win it the way we did win it, too, because we had been winning the games by, I think 18 to 20 points in the tournament. So to have that really close one and be down and then have a chance, to win it. So that it's fresh. It's 1938. I'd have to go with that right now.
No doubt. No doubt. And maybe 3 of the best college basketball players you've ever seen in person. You say you've been to a lot of games.
We coached against Marcus Camby.
Wow.
At Hartford Public. So he definitely
Kendrick Moore
stands out. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the NBA guys. Will Solomon. Long story. I almost coached Will, and then he became that NBA guy, and he was at my camp.
Where's Will from? Clemson guy,
somebody
right?
was asking me. Yeah, he was originally at Manchester.
Oh,
and then
wow.
He ended up going to East Hartford for his senior year, and then they changed the rule, and he got another year. He played 2 years at East Hartford.
Wow.
Then at Clemson, first team All ACC as a sophomore, and then Jordan drafted him. I went to the Wizards when Jordan was with the Wizards. Donovan Klingen, he was at camp as well. He was at my camp, but yeah, I coached against him his freshman year, and then we went against him in the summer.
Bristol Central.
And so I mean, he's fresh in my mind too. So there's a couple.
No doubt. All right, last question.
Yeah.
Sitting there, got the TV on, or you got the computer up, you gotta watch some film. What's the go-to late night snack you got sitting there while you breaking down this film?
I know what your snack is.
Yeah. You're not talking about a liquid snack. You're talking about. I don't know. Whatever I can find for junk food, I guess. If I'm having a beer or something, I'm breaking down film. Some chips or some nuts or something like that. But usually, that's after I've already been to eat pizza and wings. So I could just might be all set there.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, man, this is awesome. Congratulations again, man. I know what this time is like. I mean, we all do, and this isn't your first rodeo, but I mean, just special. I mean, all the people that have been touched just by the hard work that you guys put in, it's just like, it's like the most awesome thing to be able to watch, you know, to be like, man, I just was telling these guys they got to work hard every day. And now I can't go anywhere without people being like, man, great year. You made us so proud. So I know those feelings, man. I'm happy for you guys, man, and continue success.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Coach, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
And again, it means a lot. Congratulations. And like, you know, we said earlier in the show, you know, guys like Coach Reiser, these are the guys and individuals that we want on so he can share his story. Certainly has a story with close to 40 years of coaching and the mindset. And it was just nice to hear a little bit about your mindset and, you know, the development of your players, the program, and, you know, where you guys came from, you know, from last year and the development of your players. And that goes to you. You know, that's obviously the coaches, you know, you're piloting the ship, if you will. So, you know, again, thank you, Rand. Thank you, as usual. It's always a pleasure. For my co-host here, Rand, give it one more flash. Rand likes flashing his jewels tonight.
Right there, man.
But
Coach will have his soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got to start wearing mine. Mine's not that big, Rand.
It's all right.
But we'll be back soon. Built Different Podcast. We really appreciate it. You can contact us. builtdifferentpodcast@gmail.com. Give us a watch. Give us a few comments. Really appreciate you guys watching. For Pete Asadourian, Randell Bennett, Coach Reiser, thank you. Have a nice evening.